Alright, Art, this is the video that I want you guys to use for the teacher caricature on Adobe Photoshop. To start out on this project, I want you to make sure you remember where to find Photoshop. So this is my home screen. Obviously, I have it set up already on my home screen. But for you, you need to go to your Windows menu, find the All Apps, continue down to Adobe Design Premium CS4, and when you open that, scroll down until you find Adobe Photoshop, and then go ahead and open it up. Once you've got Photoshop opened up, if it's the first time you've opened it, remember you're going to get a message saying that you need to register your software. What I want you to do is click on the bottom of it where it says Do Not Ask Again. Make sure you've asked in that area, double checked it, and know exactly what's going on with it. What I plan on doing here for you guys, I'm going to bring my screen down a little bit so everything's in here. If you ever open up Photoshop and it looks different on your side than it does mine, what you can do to start is go to Window Workplaces and click on Essentials Default, and that's going to set it up to look exactly like I have for mine. Another thing that you can do is over here on the edge, if you want to change your toolbar menu to look like that, it's this little double arrow button up in the corner. It'll either be one single panel or a double panel side, just like that. What I want you to do next is to go ahead and get a picture. And I'm going to show you two different ways to get a picture. If you have sent yourself an image on your Google email, when I click into it, go to my inbox, if I double check here, I should be getting an image pretty soon here. This image I just sent myself of myself, so you guys would be able to see. What I want to do is I want to download that image. So when I download that image, it's going to open up as a JPEG here. You can see the download when it completes. I'll open it up, and when this image finally comes to be here in a second, with my big ugly face on it right there, I'm going to open with, so I click on this little menu to the side, open with, and I actually want to open it with Photoshop if it comes up here. I think I interrupted the feed there. Photoshop CS4, click OK. Now that's for your teacher caricature, so if you've sent it to your email, it should open up in Photoshop. To experiment, like I want you guys to all do first, I want you guys to actually go to Google Images and search an image. And I talked to you guys about the size of the images. That's a tiny image, 214 by 317. You can change the size that you pick by clicking on Tools and going to Size. And instead of clicking any size, I don't want large because they're too big for you. It's going to take up too much time. It's going to slow down your computer. But any size will give you the tiny ones. Instead, I want you to go medium. And what you'll see is it'll quickly get rid of all the super small images, all the really big images, and you can select any one of these now. So if I click this, I've got this picture of Jim Carrey. I'm going to right click it. I'm going to click Copy Image. I'm going to go to Photoshop. While this one's still up, it doesn't matter. I'm going to go to File, New. When I click Open New, I want to make sure the preset right here says Clipboard, and I click OK. Now it'll come up the exact size of what I just had, and to paste that picture in there, I'm going to click Control V. Control V puts the image in there. Now, I'm going to experiment with Jim Carrey here first, and I'm going to show you a couple different things to select him. If you remember, I talked to you about over on the side this Layers menu. If I double click the word Layers, it'll turn it off or on if I want it to be big or small or whatever. But I get the layers off here to the side. It's like a sheet of paper. So the background's like a sheet of paper, layer one's like a sheet of paper. And I want to be able to select his face to put it on a different background. Now, I want to look at this picture before I even start and think to myself, first of all, in a caricature, I'm going to make the head bigger. And if I'm going to make the head bigger and still sit it on the same spot, that means it's going to go up off of the image, and I don't want that. So if I look at my choice of tools here, there's a tool right here that looks like this. It's called the Crop tool. I want to select that tool. That tool, if you've used your phone to crop an image, you cut off the edges of your image. But with this tool, if I select everything like this, and then I actually drag to make an area bigger like that, and press enter, I'm going to add to the image instead of cropping the image. Now if I were to only select a little spot like that and press enter, I delete everything around it, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to step backwards, because I didn't want that done. I'm going to click on a different tool again. So now I've got the added area to the Photoshop document that I want. I want to now select his face and hair. I'm going to show you the quickest way possible. If you have a good contrasting face to a background like I have selected here, I picked a person, Jim Carrey, and his background's gray but his face is dark, skin tone and hair. I'm going to select on the quick selection tool, and this tool will select anything close to the color that I'm trying to select. I'm going to change my brush a little bit here, make my brush just a little bit bigger, and I'm going to take the hardness. Hardness is the edge of the brush. I don't want the edge of the brush to be too specific. So once I get that, I'm going to start with his nose, and I'm going to click and hold. Now I hold on the button, and you can see it slowly is selecting more, and as I drag this, it'll start selecting everything similar to that face. As I select the ear, I select the ear. Now, if that's all I want, which that ended up being perfect because of the edge there, but it won't always be that way, then I'm good. But now you'll notice if I zoom in a little bit here, it's selected a little bit more than what I wanted. What I can do for that is I can choose another tool like this polygonal lasso tool, and if I go up to the top of my menu, this is the subtract from selection button. So if I click along here, right up along the edge of the ear, and out, and then double click, I remove that from the selection. And I zoom back out, and I say that's exactly perfect of what I want. Now to photocopy it, like I said, to a new layer, it's going to be Control-J. And if you see this, I turn that off, I turn that on, and I've got that area done there. If you do that and you say, I don't like that edge, I want a better edge, that's fine. What I'll do is I'll turn that back on. I'm going to turn the quick selection tool back on, click back on this layer, because if I click on this layer and I try to use the quick selection tool, I'm literally going to be selecting nothing. There's nothing there for me to select. So I have to be in this area, and I'm going to start over. I'm going to go down, up, into the hair, into the ear. You saw it accidentally selected more than it's supposed to again. And this time I'm going to drag into the neck. Now, since I've got all that selected there, I'm going to actually do Control-J right now. Control-J, and see what I've selected. And you'll see it's got these extra little areas here. I want to clean that up. So I'm going to come across with a selection tool, and I'm going to make a much straighter edge, just so that way it's more crisp. I'm going to go out and around it, double click, and press delete on the keyboard. I also want to delete this area here, so I'm going to start over, down along the edge, double click, and delete. Once I've deleted that area, I now have a more crisp version. If you see, the original was that, and now I've got this. Okay, so that version is a little bit better to work with. I'm going to delete this layer because I don't want it anymore, drag it down and throw it in the trash right there. I turn that back on, and to make my screen a little bit smaller when I'm working on it, I'm going to press Control-, shrink it a little bit. Then I'm going to click on the Move tool, make sure I'm on this layer, and what I'm going to do next is I'm going to transform the size of the head. So I'm going to go Edit, Transform, Scale. Now, I want to transform the entire head at the exact same time, so I'm going to press the Shift button on the keyboard, and I'm going to drag the corner of the box here. So I grab the corner of the box, and I drag, and I make this head nice and large up to about this size. Once I get it the size I want, I have to let go of the Shift button and press Enter on the keyboard. By pressing Enter, I make it stick to how it's supposed to, and then I can move the head right to where I want to, kind of move it around and say I think it looks good right about there. So now you notice he's got the first parts of what a caricature would be, his head slightly large. The next thing I'm going to do using this picture is I'm going to use one of these selection tools, probably polygonal lasso tool. I'm going to select a large area around his mouth because I want to enlarge his mouth, make it bigger. I'm going to go all the way up around into the nose, back down to right here. And what I'm going to do again is make sure I'm on the layer that I'm selecting it from and press Control J, which puts it on this new layer over here to the side, layer 4. And what I can do is double click on that layer and type mouth to make sure I know what I'm working on. If I want to do that for each layer, I can say face, and this is actually technically the body layer. Okay, now as I continue this, you'll see with the mouth, I'm going to go Edit, Transform, Scale to make this more like a caricature. I'm going to enlarge the mouth, simply like that, and put it back around like where it's supposed to be, right around there. Press Enter. Now, the skin is out around that edge. The nose looks wrong. That's fine, because what I'm going to do next, I'm going to grab the eraser tool right here. And you know, if I click and hold on these, it shows other tools. You want to make sure you don't grab background eraser tool, magic eraser tool. You actually need the eraser tool right there. And what I want to do is I want to give it a soft edge. So the hardness, you do not want it all the way up to 100. You want it down to 0. Master diameter, you change to be the size you want it. If you got a really big picture, you want a bigger eraser. I'm gonna take it up. You see I keep putting it down and checking. That's about good right there. Make sure my opacity is on 100%, that my flow is up to 100%, and I'm going to start erasing around the edge of the brush, and I'm going to kind of erase into the nose here, but not down much farther than the nose. Around the edge of the face, not going into the mouth, around the edge of the face here, and I just want to make it look smooth. Like he's got a great, big, gigantic mouth. Now I can move that and go, that's too low. So I'm going to take it up. Okay, I'm going to move it over. I'm going to go up a little bit higher. And that looks a little bit more like him, which could mean a little bit more erasing that I need to do to make it look correct right around some of these parts here like that. So now I've enlarged his mouth. If I turn off the visibility of that layer and turn it back on, you can see the mouth in the original state right there on that layer, and then with the new face or mouth layer that I have. I want to now work on, actually I kind of like to make his nose a little bit bigger, so I'm going to click back on the face layer, and this time I'm going to do a layer out and around his nose, just like I did the mouth there. It doesn't have to be perfect, and I'm going to do Control J, make sure I'm on the face layer, Control J. But I want this layer to be above the mouth, so I'm going to click and drag it, move it up. I'm going to double click on the layer and type in nose. I'm going to click on the move tool, edit, transform, scale, and I'm going to make his nose a tad bit bigger there and put it right back up there where it's supposed to be, except in this case I want to bring the top of the nose down so that the curve here matches where his eyes are. Put it right about here. Enter. And I'm going to do the eraser tool on it again. So I'm going to erase around the edges so it looks like it fits. Erase. I don't want to go up into the nose at all. Erase around the edges just so that it looks like it's supposed to. And now it looks like he has an enlarged nose on his face too. If I wanted to continue, I would probably make his eyes a little bit smaller, so I'll click back on the face again, and I'll do one eye at a time, out and around the eye, up and over, and Control J. I'll go Edit, Transform, Scale, and I'm actually going to take this eye and bring it down some, and I'm going to put the eye back up and over where it's supposed to be. And I again need to take that brush, except because I shrink things, you need to go smaller brush so you don't erase too much, and you're very carefully going to go along the edge for the shrunk layer. You want to keep it underneath of the nose layer, and you just double check to make sure, because one of the things if I do along here, I'm going to take the eyebrow and make it back to his original eyebrow, and I don't want to do that. Now I'm also going to do the other eye, so I click back on the face layer again. I click the polygonal lasso tool. I go around this eye, up into the hair even. Make sure I'm on that layer, press Control J, and I want to transfer it the same size I did this one, so I'm going to go Edit, transform again. Alright, I've shrunk that eye. I'm going to move it about where it's supposed to be. I want to make sure it's level with this eye. So on the keyboard I can move the up and down tools. As long as I have move tool selected, I can kind of move up and down with the keyboard and move it about where it's supposed to be. I think right there looks good. And now the big thing is I have to erase these parts that don't look like they fit. So along this edge here, very, very carefully, I'm kind of going to go into the eyebrow a little bit there just to make sure it looks like it works. And he looks like he's got a little bit of a spot on his eyebrow there, but the rest of it looks smooth. And there it is, the Jim Carrey caricature. If I click on the top layer, nose right here, and on my keyboard I press Control-E, it'll merge it down. Control-E, you can see this merge down to the next layer. And Control-E one more time. I put all the layers of the face on one layer. If I turn that off, that's his original face, but enlarged. There's the caricature version. So original face and caricature version. If I were to print this right now, File, Print, it'll ask me a few different things about it. First of all, you want to have my computer's printer set up, which is MHS15 Lab 304. You would have that one. You want to also click Scale to Fit Media. It needs to fit the size of sheet of paper. So Scale to Fit Media. And once you've got the page set up, fit in the media that it's this way, make sure you don't have your page set up this way. It won't be set up correct. Set up, if your picture is portrait, print in portrait. If your picture is landscape, print in landscape. And then click Print. And once you have done that, make sure again it's where it needs to be and print. And if you need to set up your printer first, that's fine. That's something you need to do. But you were actually only printing your teacher caricature. When you save this image, I would make sure that you're going to File, Save As. When this comes up, click Desktop. As Desktop comes up, you want to scroll down until you find your home folder. Double click on your home folder. Now I already have multiple different folders in here. I'm going to click Art 1, and in this one I will put JC for Jim Carrey. And I want to keep it in the format of Photoshop, and I will save it. That way I can work on it later. Now I can open that on any computer in the school because it's in my drive. With that being said, and Photoshop is pausing here on me. Alright, it's back on. I'm going to close this out because I've saved that one, and I'm going to go to the image that I have of me. If this were a caricature again, I'm going to go through it really fast this time. I want to enlarge the area where my head is, but I want to kind of cut off those edges. I don't need those edges. I'm going to take it up because I want to make my head bigger. I'm going to press Enter. This has no background behind it, though. This is its own picture. So what I'm going to do, so that way I can cut and manipulate from this one, I'm going to take this background, I'm going to drag it down, I'm going to drop it on this button right here. That button will make a copy of it. If I didn't want to do that, I could literally just press Control-J and it would make a copy. So if I delete this, I click on this, I press Control-J, I've made a copy just like I've showed you guys for every other thing. Now what I'm going to show you is this same exact tool, the quick selection tool on my face, and how because the top part of my head merges in with the background in color, it might select some areas that I don't want it to select. So if I start here and start dragging down, it did select my top of my head pretty well, my nose, my goatee, and it went from my beard right into my shirt, but it did select the rest of my head pretty decently there. I want to add in this little section of my glasses right there, and then what I'm going to do is I want to remove, so I will click on the Remove from Selection, some other parts that are in there that don't need to be in there, such as this little section of my shirt and some of my neck here that doesn't need to be in there. If I come up and over and out and around, double click, and then I come across this part of the shirt right here. Now it's just my head. I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to press Control-J to make a copy. I'm going to go a little faster this time, by the way. I'm going to go Edit, Transform, Scale. I'm going to enlarge the size of my head, make my head much bigger, press enter. Once I've got enter, that part of my head done, I'm going to work on doing some manipulation with the mouth, the nose, some other areas. So I will first do around my nose, and as I'm coming up and around this area, I'm going to do Control J again. I'm going to make my nose bigger, so I'm going to go Edit, Transform, Scale. I'll take my nose, I'll enlarge it some, and I'm going to kind of shrink it. So I'll give myself a nose that looks just big and wide like that. And what I want to do again, using the eraser, I'm going to pick a bigger eraser this time, maybe even up to 200. I'm going to fix right where my glasses are so it doesn't look wrong, around the edge, around my mustache area, around the cheeks, until it looks like it's supposed to be there. I'm going to move my nose over just a little bit. So now I've got a bigger nose. Now I can do this with a few different parts of my head, including my eyes. I'm going to show you this. I'm going to actually make my eyes just a little bit smaller. So I'll take that, press Control J, do Edit, Transform, Scale again. I'm going to take my eye down just a little bit, press Enter. I'm going to move my eye where it's supposed to be right here, and you'll notice, obviously, because I have my glasses up and around there, that I need to get rid of that. So we'll go around the edge of my glasses. I have to be very careful that I don't accidentally cut into my original eye, just like that. And now I've got one shrunken eye there. I'm going to click back on the face, go around this eye. I'm going to press Control J. It makes a new layer for it. I'm not naming these layers because I'm going much faster this time. Edit, Transform again. I shrunk that eye. I put this eye back where it goes. Make sure I move it down right about the right spot. And again, have to do the eraser up and around the parts that shouldn't be there. Right here, but I got to be really careful when I go around so I don't cut into my original eye. And I'm just going to leave it like that. So now you've got the enlarged face, the big head on me, smaller eyes, bigger nose. You could do the beard if you wanted to, but everything's set up just like it needs to be. I would save it, save as into my Art 1 folder, right. Oh, I need to go to my home folder first. Home folder, then Art 1, and I would save it as Sungroth. Save. Alright, and then if I wanted to print it, I would do the exact same process I did before. So what I want you all to do is to practice these processes and make sure that you know how to do it, so when you do the teacher of, or the caricature of your teacher, you know exactly how to continue with it.